Hello and welcome to Stir Crazy Art Classes with Gerald Savine, lesson number 23, project number 7. Today we're looking at mixing up colours. This is something we do every now and again in the classes, just as a reminder, so you can see how your colours that you've got can work together. Now this is a list of the colours that I suggest that people get. They're not everybody's favourite necessarily, but I found that they're a good general mix of colours to work with. You'll also notice further down here we have permanent white, which is a gouache, which again is a good colour because it can overpaint the watercolour paints. The watercolour paints are transparent, they reflect the light off the page. Gouache paints, the light is reflected off the paint itself, enabling you to paint light on dark, which you cannot do with watercolour paints. And also just down the bottom here, not everybody's favourite colour, but Payne's Grey, which I find also very useful, and you'll see how that works in a minute. Okay, so off we go. What I've done first of all, if you draw around a pencil around the bottom of a mug, you can do a circle, split it up into 6, and if you're going to do, this is called the colour circle there, so you've got yellow, red and blue. They're the basic, or the primary colours, and when they're mixed together you get obviously red and yellow make orange, and blue and yellow make green, and in theory blue and red make purple. Now that's become quite brown, hasn't it? So looking at the colours I've suggested, alizarin crimson, which is a slightly warmer, more purpley sort of colour, and ultramarine blue, which again is one of the colours I suggest, gives you a much better purple, and in fact if you work on it you can get a better still than there is there. So what I'm going to show you here is that by mixing the colours together you can get other colours going. Here we've got cadmium yellow pale mixed up with cadmium red pale. Gradually putting more and more of the red in, it takes just a tiddly little bit of red to get to that stage. The red is a very strong colour compared to the yellow, and it doesn't take much to start changing it. And then just gradually as you come along, put more and more red in, and you get a stronger and stronger orange. Same applies. This one here, again, is the cadmium yellow pale with the cerulean blue. Gradually, a little bit at a time, adding more and more blue, but can you see how much it gets greener and greener? The different blues and different reds and different yellows will give you different effects, so you can experiment that with the colours you've got. And then down here again we can see the cadmium red pale with the alizarin crimson, and you can see how really it's gone more to a sort of brown colour rather than purple, isn't it? But again, by changing the colours you use, you can get a different effects. Now what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go to some other colours. I've got 3 pots of water. It's quite important, you don't want to get the different colours mixed up together, because they will affect, if the pigment gets washed off into the water, and it will affect the paint itself. So what I'm going to start off with is we're going to do this time, we're going to show the effect of colours mixed with sap green. Now here I'm going to pick up lemon yellow this time. As we've said before, this is a much sort of fresher colour than the cadmium yellow pale. So I'm going to do that, I'm going to wash the brush out, and then I'm going to just gradually add a little bit of, only just a tiddly little bit of colour into there, and if you look here you can see it begins to change. The yellow begins to go to green, but a nice sort of fresh green. If you're painting trees or leaves on flowers, if you've got the sort of young springtime colours going on, then this really works. And it also, if you're painting, doing a painting with as we did with the Malvern Hills one, where you've got the trees in the foreground going through to trees in the background. Again, having the lemon yellow mixed in with the greens gives a much fresher, and it also then gives the effect of pulling the colour things forward. Again, this is where you're in a way using colour to create perspective, and again you'll see this in a minute because we're going to change here. And I have to be very quick on this because I run out of time very quickly doing this, I notice, I'm afraid. That's why I've pre-done these ones here. But again here, look, we're getting richer and richer. It's a bit more, and in fact going the other way around now, I'm just bringing a bit of yellow into that. And again you can see how green that is now getting. And then in the end, let's wash the brush out so we haven't got yellow in it this time. Mustn't be lazy. And then this time, put the... It's amazing, really, isn't it, that there's not a lot of difference between that and that, even though that's got a touch of yellow in it. But you can see how it gradates through. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but this time with yellow ochre. Now this again will hopefully give the feeling of more muted green. And here's the original colour. Now let's go into that pot there. So you've got the yellow ochre. I'm gradually going to add in some green together with that. It's a bit rich now, isn't it? A bit more yellow ochre, I think, in that. But again here, it's more of a muted green, gradually pushes the colouring further back. And I'm bringing in more of the green into that. Now what I'm going to do, I think, because I'm desperately want to get on to do the other bits, I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to bring in again the green in full strength. But can you see how that compares to that? Look how that changes. You've got plenty of time now. There's a final thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea, I have to say, but I'm going to mix I'm going to do this the other way around. I'm going to put sap green. Now I like sap green because it's very much the colour of the grass and the trees in this country. I know some people just say, well, you've got to mix up blue and yellow all the time, but there's no need. But what I'm going to do is I've got this colour called Payne's Grey, and it's a very, very, very strong colour. So you only need a little bit at a time to make a difference, as you will see. And again here, this is very good because it can give you the shadows underneath the trees where the bulk of the tree, and you want to give a three-dimension to the tree in the distances. Again, if you look at the Malvern Hills one, you'll see what I'm going on about. Again here, can you see how it's getting darker and darker? There are some colours, say Payne's Grey is one. Whoops, see what I mean? How quickly it goes towards the. But how deep that is, though, that gives you nice shadows. That can be used in the foreground or even in the background as well. And what I'll do is, again, I just put the sap. This is Payne's Grey Solid. It's a colour that I use a great deal of, even with my gouache paintings. I'll show you that anyway in a minute. So that's get you going with mixing the colours up and see the effects you can get. Now I'm going to go to here, and in the few minutes I've got left now, I'm going to wash my brush up, put the green out of the way. I don't need that water pot with green in. I'm now going to work with some browns, or brownish colours. Here I'm going to pick up burnt umber. You can get raw umber as well, but again I want to show you. If you remember doing the fisherman's hut, I use burnt umber there on the buildings, but the nice sort of deep colour in there. And again, as we just add a bit more water in, it gets thinner and thinner. Again, I have to be really quite quick with this because time is running out. It's amazing how quickly those Again, you've got more time. You've got more time to get this done. I've got only a few moments to get this sorted out. I've got less than 5 minutes now, just coming thinner and thinner. I'm going to have to cheat a little bit here again, and I'll just add in the water. You take your time. Right, can you just see how the colour changes? Now, again, because of lack of time, I'm going to just put that in there and pull. And you can see the thing here is, look, solid colour, thin it down, gives you that gradating effect. If you had light shining from the left-hand side. Now the other one I have to show you is burnt sienna. Now this is again a darker colour, but it's a warm brown, and I found it can be very nice in if you've got a sort of gingery type, if you're doing a portrait with someone with ginger hair. But again, as it comes down thinner and thinner, and I'm going to be very careful, I'm going to be very, very quick now. I'm not going to be able to complete this, I don't think, before time runs out. But by adding more and more water, can you see it almost becomes a warm flesh colour here? And again, it's a colour at times mixed with a little bit of the the red, gives you a nice sort of flesh colour. Now just finally, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of Payne's Grey. Now again, it's really dark, and I've got about 10 seconds to do this, I think. I've got 2 minutes apparently, so I'm all right. But you see, that's quite dark. Now what's the thing about Payne's Grey is, and one of the reasons why I like it so much, it's got a slightly blue tinge to it. It's a very old colour. It's mixed by Mr. Windsor for Mr. William Payne back in 1720 something, I think it was. So it's a very old colour, and I know it's not favourite with some watercolour artists, but I think it, when it's added, as we saw with the green on the other section, it's quite a useful colour, and it changes colours, and you saw that again with the poppy. But again, you've got more time to do this. I'm really running out of time now, unfortunately. But I hope that gives you a guide. You carry on through, use your colours that you've got. Hopefully you've got the colours I've suggested. If not, and again, if you've got your pans of paint, work the colours up so you get a good amount of colour. So hopefully that will help you with things. So look forward to seeing you again when we do the next session.